What if I told you there's a whole soldering iron station, the complete kit, the stand, the iron, the tips, for just $110, and it works really well? Well, guess what? I have it here. It's the Aixun T3B, and today's video I'm going to show you how to set it up, how to use it, my thoughts, and just overall performance of the unit. So make sure you guys stick around for the whole video because I'm going to show you guys all that today. So hi, I'm Jesse from BCC Board Repairs. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the channel. If you like these type of videos, make sure you smash the like button. If you like tool reviews, subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this, and share this video with all your friends. Also down below, I will link to where to get this unit, where to get these t-shirts, and some other cool stuff. So make sure you check that out. So let's go ahead and get started with this review. So this is the Aixun T3B soldering station with the 210 handle and the 3 tips included. I got this from Phone Fix in China. They're a tool supplier and parts supplier who has a ton of selections. I've been buying from them for years, and they reached out to me and wanted me to, review this tool. So definitely recommend you check them out. I bought them, programmers like the JCP13, the sandwich jigs for iPhone 13 series. So here you'll see you can select the voltage. I use 110 here in the US. Select the T3B with 210 handle with 3 tips, because that, from what I've been using, this is the best setup. And take a look, $110. And if you calculate shipping here to Las Vegas, it was about $30 or $40 more, depending on how fast you want it, which, let's just say $150 total out the door for the whole setup. Definitely worth the money. So check it out. So this is basically all you'll get, which I'll show you the real thing here in a second. And then the tips, if you want to buy extra, you can go here on their site as well. I will link all this down below as well. So make sure you get the 3 pieces for the 210 handle, which is here, and it's $25 for 3 tips, which that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. Now, if you compare this station with what I currently have been using for years, which is the Hakko FM203, take a look, $568. That only includes the large iron, and I don't even think it comes with the tip. Actually, this listing does, but usually they don't. So the stand, the station FM203, which only has 1 iron, and then if you add in the micropencil, which you definitely need for micro soldering, so that's another $170. Plus, the tip, it does not come with tips, so you have to get the tip separately. So another like $46. Compare that to $150 with shipping with everything. So definitely a good deal. So let me show you the main units here, and we'll go from there. All right, so here's basically everything you'll get. It is the main unit. There is a handle here, the stand, the 3 tips, and the user manual. And pretty much this is all you'll need. So this is the main unit. This is where you'll see the display, the temperatures and stuff. And this is the handle, which is basically like a micro pencil if you're used to the Hakko stations. This is the T210 handle, and it supports JBC tips. So it does come with its own tips, which you'll see here. There's the S, the K, and the I. So that's the angled tip, the knife tip, and the conical pointy tip. This is the stand, which is amazing because I do like how you can move this angle to however you want. So when you put the iron in here, you can either have it, kind of standing up or more angled forward, whatever is more comfortable for you. And it has this built-in kind of tip swapper thing, which I'll show you as well. Makes it real easy to swap out tips, and a stand here for additional tips. And it does have a brass tip cleaner here, although this specific thing here doesn't work that well. Like when I stick my iron in here, this tends to pop up with it, which this is probably one of the things I don't like the most out of this. Everything else works well. I don't like how this kind of pops out. I might have to come up with some way to hold this down. So if I show you real quick, let's say you need to clean the tip, and especially if you're working fast, see, it just comes up with it. So they need to figure that out. But yeah, here's what it looks like when you put the soldering iron tip. And if you need to swap this out, it's real simple. you put the tip in like this and you pull out. So this little V section kind of grabs onto the tip. So when you pull your iron out, the tip stays here. And then here's another tip just standing up, which you can easily just pick it up like that. Now, it doesn't always come in all the way through. So you use the stand here, depending on which tip you're using, and then you can push it all the way through. And now the tip's installed and fully seated. So this is super handy because if you have, you're doing one job you need one tip for, you swap it out and grab another one. And there you go. So that's kind of how you would use that. Now this station also has, a sleep sensor, so you can put the iron here and the metal makes contact with this metal. It'll put the iron to sleep so it doesn't, kill your tips. So that's how that works. And then as far as plugging everything in together, so the back of this stand has a cable that plugs into the main unit back here. So this is the main unit that powers basically the stand, and then the stand powers the iron, which you plug in back here as well. And then the iron obviously connects to soldering iron tip. So you can put this main unit kind of far away and then have this right next to your working station, so you can have a very compact setup for your soldering iron. Then this plugs into a regular power cable. Make sure you guys buy the appropriate one for your country. This is the 110 volt unit. If you're in Europe or somewhere else, you might have to get the 220 volts. All right, so here's the 110 volts power. And then here on the front is the power button. There it goes, turning on, Aixun T3B. Here's where you can set your temperatures. So you see here, there's a set button. So that's whatever temperature you want to be at when the iron gets picked up. So this is the current temperature of the iron. Here on the left is kind of how much power is outputting to the iron. So if you're hitting something that's, like a ground plane that takes, that sucks up a lot of the heat, the power goes up to push more power to the iron tip so it stays at temperature. So right now it's asleep. Down here you actually see 3 presets, 280, 350, 380. If you click channels, you can just jump between those 3. And then if you click set, you go into the settings, which you can roll through here. So highly recommend you calibrate. There's another YouTube video on this which you can watch for calibration. Essentially you go through 5 temperatures, 100, 200, 300, and then you compare the real-time temperature, like using one of these, which I'll link down below in the description, to basically set what temperature it should be, what temperature you're getting, and then you adjust it that way. There's a bunch of other settings in here you can mess with, but I just use the default. So just get out of there. All right, so right now it's at 23 Celsius. If I lift up the iron, you can see there it goes at 280. So actually I use 380 Celsius for my soldering iron temp. So take a look at that, 380, set it down, and it goes to sleep. Then I pick it up, it picks up temperature right away. So it's really quick, it heats up real fast, and I've had no trouble as far as pushing that temp to the tip of the iron, so it does its job. Whereas one of the great things about this is, like when I'm doing jumpers or anything where I have to use like a micropencil, usually my Hakko micropencil is very weak. So as soon as I hit any ground plane, it really struggles to kind of melt the solder. So let's go through a few examples of when you'll be soldering, see how it performs, so you can make a decision whether or not this is a station for you. So here are the 3 tips you'll get. This is an angled one, this is a conical pointy one, and then the knife tip. So basically I use this one for 99% of jobs, just because It does have a pointy tip, so if you need to do kind of like jumpers or any like fine point soldering, you have that. But if you need to do anything where you need to, apply a lot of heat, then you can just kind of rotate it and use the flat side. Now, the pointy tip one, the conical one, actually got bent somehow. It might be the stand, I'm not sure. But the nice thing about this is it basically became a micro J-tip, which is really nice for when you're trying to hit some certain spots where you need to apply a little bit more heat than just a pointy tip. And then this J-tip, actually, it doesn't work that well for me. I can't seem to get any solder on the tip, and no matter what, it doesn't really work well for soldering. So I basically stopped using this one. I use the knife tip and this bent conical one for most of my soldering. Now if you want to compare these to my Hakko micropencil, you can see the difference. So this Hakko micropencil, the tip itself is like, $40–50. This is the actual wand or the handle, the FM202. So you can see the size difference, but essentially these both function the same in that it has a pointy tip for fine point soldering, and then a flat, larger tip for any kind of if you need a little more heat. You can compare this to the large handle. This is the BC1 tip. This is what I use for basically most of any soldering where I need to prep pads and stuff. I use this. So if you compare these tips, you see how the size difference and everything. But so essentially you have a micro pencil and a larger tip all in the same station, and you can swap between these really easy using this stand because of the way it's designed. So I've basically consolidated my 2 irons and station into one, and it makes I had no trouble with this applying the heat it needs. So let's go do some actual soldering. So the first example, we're going to do an iPad 6 charging port. So take a look. I'm going to add some flux. This is my 138 super low melt solder wire. And then I have the knife tip on this one. So you can see it's working really well. On the upper right, I do have the screen for the unit. You can see how smoothly that solder flows to the pads. And it has no trouble at maintaining temps, assuming that temperature is accurate. But you can see the power has increased on the left side. Let's see, so normally I use hot air to remove ports with some help with the iron. So let's do that. So essentially, I apply the iron on all the pads, just keep moving it. And you can see I'm using the flat side of the iron to hit all the pads, and then eventually the port just slides right off. Look at that, super easy. And then here, off camera, so when I was trying to clean the tip of my iron, and the brass wire thing came off, so that really sucks. Maybe I'll use the Hakko brass wire thing. Alright, so add more flux. Now I'm going to use my regular solder wire, the Kester 67, I forget the name, the basically leaded solder, 183 temp. Just prep all the pads. Now that I've ran the solder over all the pads, we got to clean this old flux. Clean off this adhesive. And now we're ready for the new port. A little bit of flux. Now, if you guys don't have a polarizer microscope light, highly recommend you get one because it makes it super easy. Here you go. You can see I've activated the polarizer light and I can easily see the little alignment squares on each corner. So I'm going to use my tweezers to hold it down. I got some solder wire on my iron tip. Or not enough solder wire. You can see how easily the solder is flowing. Now I just gotta add more flux. Look at that. Take a look at those solder joints. Super solid, very smooth, very even. And yeah, it works real nice. So like I said, I've been using this for at least a week for every solder job that I have here. You know, audio IC, sandwich jobs, pretty much everything. Charging ports with no issues, like literally no issues. The only issue is the brass wire thing I mentioned earlier. Also, the one thing we can say about this Aixun soldering station is the reliability. You know, Hakko has been around for years and I've been using it for about 5 years. Zero issues with that station as far as being reliable. This one is a new brand. I believe it's JC who made the Aixun brand, because you got to use their software to do firmware updates on it and whatnot. So we don't know the reliability, you know, and it is basically a clone of a JBC station. So, you know, who knows, you know, how much, how good the job was in the design and engineering. But we do know Hakko is reliable, so you know it's kind of the risk you take when getting these off-brand or clone type of devices. All right, so now let's do a TriStar test with the new port I just installed, and it passes a charging port. Now we're going to see if there's any issues with TriStar. But the fact that it passed the charging port means the port is installed properly. And there you go, pass. So charging port and TriStar is good, meaning this port is fixed. Next example is, you know, basically prepping pads and stuff like that. And maybe I'll do the jumpers as well. So this is a iPhone 7 that I just removed the audio IC. The board is cool to the touch, so it's room temperature. You know, this is important because, you know, there's no additional help. I'm not on a preheater either. So take a look at how it performs. Obviously, we got to put a lot of flux. And I'm going to use my regular leaded solder wire. And you can see how easily it's able to prep all these pads without, you know, the ground pads bridging. Usually if the soldering iron struggles, you'll see like the ground pads really create a mound of solder. So I was able to prep all these pads with no issues. Now this iron tip is pretty large for this area, so you gotta just make sure you do the parts you can. All right, so that's that. Now, let me just, for comparison, let me try that with my micropencil. This is the Hakko micropencil. All right, not bad. Although this is already, you know, loaded with the leaded solder, so it works fine for now. but just as a comparison. Let's see how it does on these pads. This is the Hakko micropencil. Oh, it's doing fine. But remember, like $700-ish setup. Oh, look at that. You can see some bridging on these pads here. You guys see that? You guys see that blob of solder right there? That means the Hakko is not able to push out enough heat to keep it at, you know, the high temp. Now let's try. This is now the action. Is it? Yeah, look at that. If you move it the right angle and the right speed, you can kind of clear that bridge. So there you have it. Now let's see these NAND pads. Now this is the 8 donor board. This is just a parts board, so don't mind the destruction that happened here on the board. All right. So you can see how I'm able to prep all these pads, even with the underfill there in the way. And no preheater, by the way. If you guys watch my channel, you know I pretty much use a preheater for everything. But for this example, I do want to show you without it. So if we could do it without it, without the preheater, I could definitely do it with it. All right, let me clean the tip. So what do you guys think? Let me know down below in the comments. If you're enjoying the video, make sure you like and subscribe. So I really like this knife tip just because of the angle. Although if you are too rough, you can break pads like I just did. But I'm not really being too careful. I do want to just illustrate the point that this has no trouble with these pads. All right. So what do you guys think? Is this good? Gotta make sure iron sits well in the stand, otherwise I won't go to sleep. All right, and then last, I am gonna do the audio IC jumpers here so you guys can see how that works. All right, so let me scratch out just some random traces here to see how you would install jumpers. Now, personally, I don't do these 4 jumpers for audio IC. I only do C12 and D12. But I know a lot of you guys do these anyway. So you guys can see how effective this iron is for running jumpers. All right, so for now, I'll use the knife tip as well, so you guys can also see what I mean is that you can pretty much use this tip for everything. By the way, if you do feel the iron is being too rough on jumpers like this, you could also turn down the temp on the iron itself. Instead of 380, maybe you could do 350 or something like that. All right, so I prepped the traces. Here's the jumper wire. So I am coming in from this angle. I can't get the wire lined up. All right, from the top. Alright, that was a really bad jumper. Let me adjust. Let me put the tip upside down and push it into position. There you go. All right. Now here's where maybe the J tip would be ideal. So let me actually swap that out. Let me put the wire there. All right, that one's out. The new tip is in. Oh, this is actually my conical tip that's bent. Let's try this one. So being that it's bent, I could come in at this side angle. My hand's real shaky today. I think I need more flux here. Oh, you know what? I haven't added solder to this tip. That's why. Let me rotate this. Today's not my day for jumpers. Alright, that's just a bad tech. I would say, not a bad iron. By the way, you know, just kind of on that topic, is oftentimes it's not really the tool that makes a good tech, but the tech itself, as far as technique and, you know, practice and all that. So, you know, if you're just bad at soldering, you know, doesn't matter which soldering station you have, it's not going to change that, you know, your skill level. So always keep that in mind. You know, a good tech can solder with anything, basically. Although a good tool makes soldering much easier. So, let me know down below in the comments what you think of my ugly jumpers. All right. Maybe this last one will be finally a pretty one. But functionally, these jumpers will work. It just doesn't look ideal. Yeah, that one looks good. Okay, you're going to cut it here. Oh, my blade broke. Just my luck. All right, I think it's severed. There it goes. And just, man, a bunch of lint. All right, let me just bend that up. All right, so now let's see what that looks like after cleaning off all the flux. I mean, it could be better, but you see the point as far as the, you know, this pencil achieving the goal of having a very fine tip to allow you to solder jumpers like this. You know, the same station and handle can handle both, you know, prepping the pads and, you know, hitting those small points on the jumpers. So this is my good jumper and the rest are ugly, but technically functional. So if I were to actually be doing an audio IC here, this will work. So there we have it. Let me know what you guys think of the quality of what you saw. Is it a station, soldering iron station you plan on getting? Especially if you're on a tight budget or you don't want to spend too much on soldering tools. You know, microscope, hot air, all this stuff adds up. But having a soldering iron station for just under $150 is great. So definitely recommend it. I would say this is a buy. I will be using this for future repairs and in my future videos. Also, don't forget, this does support the JBC genuine tips. So if you want like a higher quality type of tip, you can use the JBC ones. It uses the C210 tips, and you can find there's like a million of those tips that you can choose from, different shapes and sizes and stuff like that. But the ones I use are the ones that came in the kit. So far, had no issues except for that conical that slightly bent, which actually worked out, for me. So also, the only concern about this station is the quality. Who knows how long it's gonna last? It is a new brand, whereas Hakko, JBC, these are established brands, and I've been using my Hakko for about 5 years now with no issues. Aixun is a new brand, I believe it's by JC, so I don't see how it can fail. Just the tips, tips are a consumable. They will wear down and fail, so you do have to replace those regularly. And it's nice to be able to buy genuine tips that work with this, lower cost station. So essentially, it's like if you have a JBC here for, a fraction of the price. So let me know down below in the comments what you guys thought. Do you plan on buying one? Is there something else you want me to test? Maybe I can do in a future video. If I have any updates as far as the station, I'll let you guys know. So make sure you guys smash the like button if you like the video, subscribe to the channel to see more tool review videos like this, and share this video with all your friends so that they know which soldering station to get. Don't forget, down below I will link to this tool, how to get this t-shirt, which does support the channel as well. So appreciate all you guys for sticking around here to the end. I'll see you guys in the next one.